You ever watch a game where the final handshake tells you more than 1,000 highlights? Monday night in Baltimore was one of those nights. A heavyweight tilt where the Lions imposed their will, the Ravens fought back with everything Lamar Jackson had. And when the dust settled, Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson walked to center field and hugged, a simple human moment that felt like the proper punctuation on a brutal, beautiful football night. Detroit set the tone early by grinding the clock with surgical efficiency. That opening 98-yard possession, 10 minutes, 13 runs on 18 plays, finished by David Montgomery, wasn't just a drive, it was a statement. It erased momentum, wore down the Ravens' defense, and forced Baltimore to watch instead of play. When you can chew that kind of time off the clock and finish in the red zone, you're not hoping for luck, you're manufacturing advantage. The Lions showed patience and physicality in a way that said they hadn't lost their identity after Week 1's stumble. Baltimore answered with flashes of brilliance. Jackson still thrives in chaos, and he carved out 3 touchdown passes on a night when the pocket was shrinking around him. But the story of the game was the pass rush. Detroit got to Jackson 7 times. That number doesn't lie. When you can repeatedly erase his escape lanes and make him finish throws under duress, you drastically shrink the Ravens' playbook. The Lions were relentless in their pursuit, executing stunts and edges that took away Lamar's comfort and turned his improvisational magic into a series of pressured decisions. There were dramatic swings. The Lions' second long drive, 96 yards with a 72-yard Montgomery burst, showed the offense's unique blend of power and creativity. John Morton might not be Ben Johnson, but he called plays that balanced smash-mouth football with well-timed misdirection. The trick play where Goff handed to St. Brown and it pitched to Gibbs was an example of schematic wit rather than gimmickry. It exploited Baltimore's aggression and put playmakers in space. That kind of variance is lethal when you can also run it at will. On the defensive side, Detroit's energy was infectious. Aiden Hutchinson's punch-out on Derrick Henry that led to a turnover was emblematic, not just a single play, but the result of sustained pressure, disciplined gaps, and tackling in space. For a unit that was criticized after Week 1, this performance felt like a corrective. They stripped the ball, clogged lanes, and forced Baltimore into more predictable, shorter decision situations. That's how you win tight games against elite quarterbacks. Jared Goff's night was quietly efficient. He didn't need to be spectacular because the run game and the defense did so much heavy lifting, but he made the throws that mattered. His 4th and short conversion inside the 2-minute warning wasn't a cinematic miracle. It was execution under pressure. Dan Campbell's decision to go for it and to call a play that trusted his QB to find a tight window worked because the quarterback delivered. That's a coach-quarterback trust moment, and those moments compound into seasons. For Baltimore, the clear takeaway is protection. 7 sacks indicate schematic breakdowns, missed assignments, or simply a line that can't hold against elite rushers. Jackson compensated where he could, but he can't be expected to outrun pressure every week. The Ravens have the talent to be a top squad. These losses are more a function of fixable structural issues than a fundamental collapse. Clean up the O-line, create quicker release options, and the offense regains the rhythm that makes it lethal. There's a human element in all of this that matters. The embrace between Goff and Jackson after the game. In an era where everything is amplified, that moment cut through noise. 2 competitors acknowledging one another's craft, exhausted, sweaty, honest, is a reminder that beyond rivalries and narratives, these players are professionals who measure themselves by how they play the game. For fans and young players, that image is a lesson in respect. You can be fierce and still honor the opponent. Looking ahead, Detroit walks away 2-1 with renewed credibility. After a shaky opener, they answered critics with discipline and execution, proving they can sustain drives, finish in the red zone, and make gutsy coaching calls that pay off. The Ravens at 1-2 aren't broken. They're exposed in places that can be fixed. The league is littered with teams that repair mistakes quickly and come roaring back. Baltimore's margin for error this season depends on how fast the front office and coaches address protection and schematic adaptability. Monday night was more than a box score. It was a two-act show of brute force and improvisational genius, with a quiet reminder at the end that the best parts of football are both competitive and respectful. The Lions left Baltimore with a win earned the hard way. The Ravens left with answers to find. And as they walked off the field together, Goff and Jackson gave the audience the kind of human, unscripted footage that makes you remember why you tuned in. To see the game tested, the players tested, and respect exchanged when the final whistle blows. Monday Night Football gave us everything you want from a heavyweight clash: big plays, brutal hits, and a moment of mutual respect that cut through the noise. The Detroit Lions walked out of Baltimore with a 38-30 win. But the image everyone's replaying isn't a touchdown or a sack. It's Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson, two elite quarterbacks sharing a hug after the final whistle, a quiet acknowledgement that both men left everything on the field. This was a game of contrast and grind. Detroit leaned on an old-school blueprint: control the clock, punish you on the ground, and make the quarterback who beats you work for every inch. The Lions offense put together two marathon drives, 98 and 96 yards, that chewed time and broke Baltimore's rhythm. David Montgomery ripped off a 72-yard run that flipped the script, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown consistently made Detroit's offense hum. Jared Goff managed the game with calm efficiency: 20 for 28, 202 yards, and a clutch presence when the Lions needed short field conversions. But this wasn't just an offensive clinic. Detroit's defensive performance was the headline. The Lions sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times. 7. That's a statement. They disrupted design quarterback runs, collapsed pockets, and made it clear that when you remove Jackson's comfortable lanes, the Ravens' offense loses its best identity. Jackson still fought, 21 for 27 for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he made plays when the pocket held. But the relentless pressure changed the tenor of the night and forced Baltimore into uncomfortable reads and hurried throws. There were momentum swings, too. Derrick Henry's puzzling fumble on a crucial drive and Aiden Hutchinson's forced turnover in the fourth quarter were game-defining moments. Late in the final frame, Detroit showed the kind of brass we've come to expect under Dan Campbell: 4th and short in the 2-minute window, and they went for it. Goff found St. Brown, then Montgomery sealed it with a 31-yard score. Aggressive call, perfect execution. What does it mean next? For Detroit, this is confirmation. They can win in hostile places against top-tier opponents, and their balance, running, passing, and a defense that can get to the quarterback, makes them a matchup nightmare. For Baltimore, the alarm lights are flashing around the offensive line. You can have Lamar Jackson's talent, but without clean protection and running lane integrity, even the best QBs become surviving rather than thriving. And that post-game embrace? It's a reminder that football is still played by humans. 2 quarterbacks, different styles, same respect. It's sportsmanship in a season full of storylines. And after a game that tested bodies and wills, it was the perfect final frame.